Welcome to this learning module on how to write an introductory paragraph. First, we'll quickly review the organization of an academic paper and then zoom in on the elements of an introductory paragraph: the hook, the context or background, the problem, the roadmap, and the argument. You will have multiple opportunities to practice with the examples given and to apply these ideas to your own papers. Let's review the structure of an academic paper that we learned in the last session. The arrow at the top communicates how an introduction begins broad but quickly narrows down to the argument the paper makes. Hopefully this visual communicates the literal point you must make. Likewise, the two rectangles in the middle represent the body paragraphs with claims that support the arguments, the facts that prove those claims, and an analysis of those facts. A body paragraph is a self-contained unit that is complete. The bottom arrow represents the conclusion, which restates the argument in light of the evidence provided in the body paragraphs and broadens out to the larger issue. Just to be clear, we'll walk through it again with some examples. In the top paragraph, the argument is, measures taken to reduce distracted driving have proven insufficient, so equipment manufacturers must shut down devices for operators while driving. In the first rectangle claim, you see, laws banning texting while driving have proven insufficient to curb the problem. The second rectangle claim reads, hands-free technology interferes with driving just as much as texting does. In the bottom arrow, we see a revised argument. Since even hands-free technology splits attention, shutting down devices to prevent their use represents the only complete solution to distracted driving. Now let's zoom in on a full introductory paragraph that demonstrates the elements: the hook, the context, the problem, the roadmap, and the argument. An introductory paragraph looks like the arrow behind me, and let's summarize the function of each element one by one. The hook is an attention getter. The context represents the least the audience needs to know to understand the paper. The problem succinctly states the issue the paper addresses. The roadmap lays out the order of the argument, and the argument is what you'll prove. Let's walk through one, step by step. In this case, the hook in blue reads, today if you text while driving, you should have 911 on speed dial. The context, depicted in green, reads, you wouldn't be alone in this need for speed dial because every day 1,000 people suffer injuries from distracted driving, and 9 people die in such accidents. Despite 47 states having enacted distracted driving laws, the Highway Traffic Safety Agency attributed 3,450 deaths in 2016 to distracted driving. The problem in red reads, although experts anticipated a decline in distracted driving accidents, the rate of death and injury have remained constant. The roadmap in purple reads, thus we'll review the effects of distracted driving laws and hands-free legislation, the results of public education campaigns, and available program statistics on equipment shutdown. The argument in green reads, since the measures taken to reduce distracted driving have proven insufficient, equipment manufacturers should program devices to shut down while driving. So now that we've put together an introductory paragraph with an example, let's focus on the first element, the hook. As you can see from the slide, a hook may take one of several forms. It may be a story, a quote, a provocative question, or a bold statement. Let's run through an example of each for our distracted driving paragraph. A story could be one short sentence like this. Jennifer thought that hands-free driving would keep her safe, but she was so engrossed in her conversation that she never saw the 16-wheeler that took her life. Or you could use a quote from a perpetrator for an interesting twist. In a split second, you could ruin your future, kill or injure others, and tear a hole in the heart of everyone you love. Or you may ask a question. If you're distracted, who's driving? Or you may stop the reader with a bold statement that makes them think. The road is no place to socialize. I read this and stopped to visualize a group of people stopping to talk in the middle of the road getting mowed down. This sentence is particularly effective because you can visualize the problem. Now take 5 minutes to employ these lessons to write a hook for your Introduction to Homeland Security paper. You may use a story, a quote, a question, or a bold statement, but make it short and snappy, just one sentence. To give you some examples of how you might write such a hook, take a snippet out of the news that leads to the point or question of what your paper is going to be about. For a quote, go to the event or case example that you're going to use in your paper and see if you can find a quote. For a question, think of something provocative. For example, does the campfire signal a new class of megafires that will rage with greater frequency and intensity? And that's a question your paper will answer. Or for a bold statement on the same topic, you might say, whether living in an urban or rural setting in California with fires that jump 12 traffic lanes, no one's life or property is safe. After your hook, you might want a short transition before presenting the context or facts that give the reader the picture of what you want to talk about. For example, after the story of Jennifer being hit by a 16-wheeler, your next sentence could say, unfortunately, stories like Jennifer's are all too common. Every day in the United States, 9 people die, while 1,000 people suffer injuries. Be sure to return to the hook in your conclusion. Revisit the story in the last paragraph to reinforce the point or argument you're making. Use all or part of the quotation in some clever way somewhere. Answer the question you ask as a lead-in to review your argument. Revisit the bold statement. For example, it could be, no California residents will be safe from megafires in their future. Complete the circle of the paper by ending where you began to wrap it all up. The minimal background or context you provide should lead directly to the problem statement. So the trick is to provide the most powerful, relevant evidence that sets up the problem that the paper addresses. Use 1 to 3 sentences only. 1 sentence conveys the problem, and 1 sentence conveys the research question, which is most likely for your introductory paper, or the argument. At the start, you should only know the question driving the paper. You may suspect what you'll find, but the argument is the answer to the research question, just as it will be in your thesis. That's what you should know about writing an introductory paragraph. If you'd like to send me your introductory paragraph, I'm happy to see whether you followed the form and functions as outlined here.